right, well, let's get started. Welcome to the membership kickoff. And this is relatively new. We've done this a couple times now. We had some good success with it last year, and so we're gonna try it again this year, just a little virtual. And this year, 2020, 2021, I'm the chairman of OVF, Danny Slusarchuk. And so tonight we've got some information about OVF. We also have Nathaniel Harding from CORTADO Ventures, and so he's gonna give a talk tonight, which is awesome. Then we have 3 breakout sessions, so it's going to be interesting. We're going to go over how that's going to play out with Zoom here, but we wanted to make sure we capitalize on the networking events, and we've got some technological ways to do that tonight. Shay's going to pull up her screen here. We're going to take a look at some stuff real quick. So OVF, we're back. We started back in 1987, and basically as an energy state, ups and downs, needed a way to introduce new industries, introduce entrepreneurship to capital, and to let people know that it was out there. They also wanted to have networking opportunities, and they wanted to create some recognition for the companies that were doing good things in Oklahoma. So we continue that by hosting some good live content. We'll have a main speaker, somebody who's seasoned, talk about some sort of experience that they've had, either exiting or some series of funding that they've obtained, some sort of mature experience that they've had. And we'll have a pitch presenter. So we're looking to connect them with investors, incubators, service professionals, things like that. The membership is really important. That's what basically enables us to do what we do. So this year, we've got some renewable energy technology that we're going to focus on. We're also looking at autonomous vehicles. So I know that's a hot topic, and one that I personally can't wait to see happen. And then we also have some various different softwares, as well as some investment and funding educational seminars coming down the pipe. So this ought to be a pretty good year. Now I'm going to kick it over to Shay, and she's going to let us know how we're going to operate tonight.
Well, hello and welcome. I'm Shay Losberg. I'm the Executive Director of Oklahoma Venture Forum. If you ever have trouble with anything at all OVF related, I'll be the gal to help you out. Since our event platform is virtual, I do have some tips for you to kind of get the most out of what we're doing tonight. The first thing is you'll probably want pen and paper just so that you can take down names of people who you might want to connect with later. If you aren't able to get information about them during our breakout sessions, you can always reach out to me. I have everybody's at least email addresses for sure. If you haven't experienced the Zoom networking breakouts before, it kind of goes as this follows. During the event, well, first of all, we're gonna have 3 breakout sessions. Each one are gonna be 10 minutes. You'll be in a random room with different people each time. When it is time for the breakout sessions, Danny will announce it, and the attendees are gonna be divided up into random groups. Once you're in that breakup room, you're gonna see the screen change to different grouping of people, so you'll know you're in there. Once you're in the breakout room, each person obviously should introduce themselves and probably explain your relationship to OVF. For example, if you're a member or if you're a guest. If you have a specific interest in OVF, maybe you're a founder, or maybe you're a representative from an incubator, maybe you're an investor, you might mention those things too, because it's obviously going to help you capitalize on the breakout sessions that we have. You may privately chat with anyone individually during the breakout sessions, or you can privately chat with them again at the end of the event. We're going to leave the event open for 5 to 10 minutes so that people can privately chat. If it's needed. It may not be needed, but you know, and everybody may want to go have dinner. Then let's see. When the breakout room time is over, you'll see a notification that you have 60 seconds left, and then when the time is not, it will flip back over to the regular room, and you'll see everybody once again. This is our first event to use this feature, and we're eager to hear your feedback. So at the end of each breakout session, I have a single question poll. Just give me your best feedback, and that way I can use that information down the road to make this process even more beneficial for you all. Our guest speaker today is Nathaniel Harding. He's from CORTADO Ventures. If you have questions for him during his presentation, please send them via chat directly to Danny. And then when Nathaniel is done speaking, Danny will ask him those questions. Again, this process is new for all of us, and we hope that this function is beneficial. So we're looking forward to your input. You'll probably want to unmute when we go to the breakout rooms. Pro tip.
Thanks, Shay. All right. Before we get over to Nathaniel, before we get it to our first breakout, and then after that we'll have Nathaniel talk. I'm going to talk a little bit about myself and what OVF has kind of brought to the table for me. So I've had a few companies. Currently, I have Standards IT, founded it, CEO of it. It's been going since 2012. I've been a member of OVF longer than that. So it's been pretty cool to be a part of OVF for a really long time. But as an entrepreneur in Oklahoma and starting a few businesses here, OVF has been really kind to me. And I would say we get a lot of feedback on the networking opportunities. I would say that is pretty significant, or it has been for me. There's people on the call right now that are clients, service providers, advisors. So from my standpoint, OVF has been invaluable to the growth and success of Standards IT. And so some examples, we went through the Francis Tuttle Incubator. So Jennifer's on the call. I'm not sure if I see her, but the Francis Tuttle Incubator was pretty big deal, 2-year program for us. David, I already kind of mentioned, but I've been through a program where David's been a keynote speaker. There's Kit, she's on, I see her, and she's just a wonderful person that helps us stay in the business community. She also uses our services from time to time, which is wonderful. And Steve does all of our HR. So, you know, even our legal group came from OVF. It's a wonderful community, and the people that are members truly want to see you succeed, or at least that's the way I feel, and the way our company has succeeded, I think, is a testimony to what OVF can bring to the table from an entrepreneur standpoint. So, so I think that's pretty cool. Now, our first networking session after hours, kind of like we're doing now. So without further ado, Nathaniel, take it away, sir.
All right. Hey, thank you very much, Dan and Shay. Really appreciate you inviting me here. And, you know, I think we're all kind of getting more and more used to these Zoom meetings and the breakouts. And it's nice to see so many people and share something in common. But, you know, it's even better to see everybody in person. But it's just great to have this opportunity to share what we're doing. So as I understand it, I have, I think maybe 20, 25 minutes to kind of get through. I did prepare some slides, and I'll pull that up here in a moment. But I just wanted to spend maybe 30, 45 seconds just to introduce myself. So met a lot of you, but not everybody. But so Nathaniel Harding, I'm from Oklahoma originally, was born and raised in Norman, you know, OU graduate. worked most of my career in Oklahoma City. I've had a couple of companies, sold a couple of companies, primarily in oil and gas, but also the last 6 years have been an angel investor, an advisor to some entrepreneurs, and a board director as well. I've also served on behalf of, been appointed by the mayor and the governor to serve in roles relating to economic and workforce development. It's just been a privilege last year to really put together what is now Cortado Ventures. So my partners, David Woods and Mike Marotti, give us a little wave, guys. I see you on there. We've been kind of commiserating the past few years about doing something like this in our own way, in our own circles. And then over the last year, have been talking in earnest about what this would look like, and whiteboarding the idea and dreaming and scheming. And so really this year has been the year that we decided to launch Cortado Ventures. And so we finished the paperwork in April, and then formally launched at the end of May with the goal of raising $10 million. We're hoping to do it in a year. We ended up doing it in 2 months. We're now at about, we announced 2 weeks ago that we would extend to 15 million. We're now sitting at about 13.5. So that's been a great reception, and I'll kind of talk by way of my slides. I'll kind of talk a bit about how we're looking at the world, how we're looking at the opportunity in Oklahoma, and then how Cortado is positioned in all that. So let me now move to sharing my screen. Okay. Okay, so I think everybody see that? All right, let me make it full screen.
Yeah, I can see.
Okay, so I'm going to spend the rest of my 20 minutes on this slide. No, just kidding. That's not true. So the name Cortado, this is actually the real story is that my partner Mike Marotti was trying to think of a name, and then he had a Cortado in his hand, and there it was. But besides being a fun word to say, it is a type of coffee drink. Startup culture is all about caffeine and late nights and hard work. So it's kind of a nod to that. But also startups are fueled by ambition, money, and caffeine, right? And so that's where we come in. At a glance, Cortado Ventures is made up of the three of us general partners, myself, David Woods, and Mike Marotti. What we have in common is that we've all built companies. We've all led companies in Oklahoma, started our own companies in Oklahoma, in different sectors and in different business cycles. And I think that's a pretty interesting skill set to bring together. We have very complementary skill sets, and we know how to take something from 0 to 1, which I think is important when you're doing something unique for the state. But it's also important because we're looking for early stage companies. We're looking to make investments in early stage technology companies, and so identifying that talent in the entrepreneur is more art than science. And so having been there and done that, I think that helps a bit. You see some of the experience that we have, the different verticals where we have experience, and then on the right you just see as far as what we're targeting for our fund size, and we're 100% focused on backing entrepreneurs with disruptive technologies, and I'll talk more about that in coming slides. So what we offer for investors is obviously we're structured just like you would find any other venture capital fund, like West Coast, East Coast, or larger markets, where we have investments from limited partners, and we pool that to make investments in a number of different startups. And so we expect to allocate capital primarily to about 10 companies. We'll also make investments in a number of other companies at the earlier stage, and many of those companies we hope, of course, kind of graduate into a Series A round. But for investors, that means that it's a diversified portfolio that's professionally managed by us. And to do that well, for entrepreneurs, what we offer is we understand. We've been there and done that. We've built companies. We move quickly. We're creative, and we have that entrepreneurial grit that we look for in companies that we invest in. And I think that culture match, we hope to position ourselves in such a way that we can really thrive in that world of keeping up and helping to grow the companies in which we invest. there's two aspects primarily of the fund. So we have the blind pool, as I just mentioned. We also offer a sidecar investment, and that's because we are administered by AngelList. It enables us to have a turnkey approach to enabling co-investment by way of a sidecar. And I think that's an interesting approach because it's a win-win-win, right? So it's a win for the company because they're able to get more capital. It's a win for investors who want more exposure. And frankly, it's a win for us because that's more AUM, and it gives us a stronger position in the companies in which we're invested in. So in the next few slides, I'll kind of talk about how we're looking, broadly about the role of venture capital, and then, why Oklahoma, why now? And so, you look at early stage venture capital in particular, which is where we've chosen to really build Cortado Ventures. And at least according to this study from Cambridge Associates, it vastly outperforms other investment categories. You can pick different time horizons, but this time horizon's the last 25 years. But certainly it's a very different investment class than others. And so many of you know about the book that was popularized years ago called Black Swan. And really it popularized the barbell approach. And so in other words, we live in a world where we can't quantify away risk down to zero. We have to acknowledge that at any moment you can have something like COVID happen and it blows up all the economic models. So the smart approach, we believe, is to build a portfolio that not only is resilient, but it actually counter-correlated to things that can happen in the economy. So startups is one of those things. So in distressed times like this, in times of uncertainty like this, you actually see startups in particular thrive. So disruptive technologies emerge. The record number of startups happen. And so that's one of the reasons that we viewed this year as being actually good timing to start Cortado Ventures. And then that same study that I referenced on the panel on the right, it also identified that the #1 influence for success in early stage investing was proximity. So it studied 60,000 investments over a 60-year time horizon, and it found that proximity was the best. So being near deal flow, knowing the market, and having the network leads to being able to select the best deals. And then being close, especially for these early stage companies that are high touch, right? I mean, we are involved in the management of the companies. Being close is important. And so, we are focusing on Oklahoma and more broadly on this part of the country, partly because we think that's where the opportunity is, but it's also where our network as a firm is strong, and it's where this kind of data illustrates we can do a lot of good and be focused on returns. So, why Oklahoma? Why now? So I talked to you a little bit about why this kind of economic environment is ripe for startups. And so the last time we had a recession, now it didn't feel like a recession right now because I saw the S&P is at a new record, but I think we can all agree that it's a time of uncertainty for the economy. So the last time we had a distressed or an uncertain time in the economy, you had startups that I'm showing here on the right, all venture capital backed, that started around that time. So the macro environment, I believe, is there. Drilling it down to this part of the country, it's been identified by others that Oklahoma is in need of more venture capital relative to the quality startups that we have. So as a business person, if we see an opportunity and that we're uniquely qualified to fill it, then that's why we decided to start Cortado. I also believe that over the last several years, the infrastructure to support a vibrant entrepreneurial ecosystem is here. And so with things like Thunder Launchpad and 36 Degrees North, and just the work of others to really develop an investor community and the Oklahoma Venture Forum as well, and educating the investor community and encouraging startups, helping startups develop from idea to a viable investable company. Those are all things that really were not as in place or not as developed, maybe even just 5 years ago. So the kind of this pipeline approach, right? I mean, we're filling the pipeline with quality companies, and we want to be positioned on the other end of that pipeline to be able to invest. And also, I think there's a lot of political will. And so certainly, part of that means, politicians, but it also just means the kind of the will of people to acknowledge that Oklahoma needs to diversify the economy. We've been saying it for 50 years. We're now, I think, finally crying uncle and saying we absolutely need to diversify the economy. And we just view our role as at Cortado to be in the marketplace and just being the capitalists that have a fund, to have dry powder, to be able to invest in the best ideas. And so in that way, we'll create sustainable companies, because you create sustainable companies by companies that are the best and most suited in the marketplace. And so we just really think that both investors and policy decision makers are in this. There's now the environment where there's a readiness for what we're doing. And then, of course, there's enduring behavioral changes brought on by COVID, right? I mean, I know my my father, who would have never been using Zoom or using other technologies, is now using it every day. And so we've all kind of been forced 5 or 10 years into the future in terms of adoption of technology. Our companies are being forced ahead 5 to 10 years in terms of adoption of technology. And startup entrepreneurs are recognizing that, and we want to be there to invest in those. So real quick about the three of us, I mentioned myself a little bit. A lot of you know my partners, David and Mike, and so I think I'll repeat again that I think the three of us being founders, being CEOs and presidents of companies in Oklahoma in different sectors is a powerful combination. And just really, I think it's a testament, the kind of reputation that David and Mike have, and it's been a pleasure to work with them already, and just really looking forward to everything that's in store. And the other part of our team, we do have service providers in place. You see on the right there who we have, Hogan Taylor for audit and tax, McAfee and Taft for legal counsel. And importantly, I think most of you, if not all of you, are familiar with AngelList. That's our third-party administrator. They provide all of our back office, so tax, accounting, finance, compliance, investor intake. But it allows us to really focus on what we do and finding and building companies. But it also gives our investors peace of mind that the largest such administrator in the world is the steward and treasurer for our fund. And then Wayne and Michelle kind of rounding out our team in-house. Just a quick snapshot on the combined experience of myself, David, and Mike. So experience with different venture capital funds, experience with building and selling companies, growing them to substantial levels, and also with alternative investments. So I think that, again, bringing that together is a powerful combination. So as far as what we look for, and I'll go a little bit more into the why. And so none of you are going to be surprised that, of course, we look for outstanding teams and differentiated products, addressable markets. If any venture capitalist doesn't say those things, then that would be unusual. So I'll drill down just a little bit to kind of understand how we look at that. So I mentioned a little bit that as entrepreneurs ourselves, we feel like we understand what we're looking for when we evaluate management teams. That's certainly important. So that grit, that creativity, that resiliency, because plan A never happens. And so the ability to bounce back when you get punched in the face, because it will happen. Those are things that we really look for. We like to develop relationships with entrepreneurs over time. We actually really like to meet people when they don't need money. So that way over months, we can kind of see how they operate. And then when they do need money, then we may be in a position to help. So, what is a differentiated product? What is a disruptive technology besides a buzzword? A quick example that I often give is, let's say there's a company that sells sweaters. Maybe they make a lot of money doing it. Maybe they are franchising and growing. That's not disruptive. What is disruptive is somebody who invents synthetic wool, because that will replace the entire wool supply chain worldwide. And now that's a big market. And that's a technology that can be patented, or at least you can have a substantial head start on. So we like to see a moat around that technology. And of course, large addressable market, but specifically, we want to see a go-to-market strategy that involves monopolizing the the near market. So what I mean, an example is, think of Facebook. They first monopolized Harvard. So what? Well, then they monopolize Ivy Leagues, then all of colleges, then the US, then the world. And so it's one thing to have $1 trillion market, but unless there's actually a path to monopolize and kind of work your way and serially add to that, that's what we look for. And then in terms of what we look at, B2B technologies is the overarching theme, but we also like to see them application in verticals where Oklahoma has a strength. So in other words, we ask ourselves, why Oklahoma? That may mean that the company is domiciled in Oklahoma, but let's say it's energy tech or aerospace or biotech. Those are all areas where Oklahoma has a strength. It makes sense that they should have a market presence here. It makes sense that the three of us, that Cortado Ventures is positioned to help them grow. And between the three of us partners and our growing list of advisors, we look for companies where we have domain expertise. So that we include that as part of our process. And that's part of how we kind of leverage and make it a team sport as we evaluate companies. And then on the bottom there, you see our check sizes. At the pre-seed level, check sizes in the range of 100,000, going up to a Series A up to $1 million. And we especially like to be involved early on in companies and be in a position to double down, triple down, quadruple down, going into a seed and then into a Series A. And then, of course, we have about half the funds set aside in reserve so we can do that and grow with the company. Investment criteria, nothing magical here, but it might be nice to kind of see how we explicate it. So at the seed stage, we're looking for that market fit. So we're looking for not only just users, even if they're not paid users, but we're looking for them to continue to use it and to recommend to others, and in private conversations say that this is a good fit for them. And then of course, what we look at management, and then we also, it's very important that our funding can actually prove and help the company get to the next phase. If our funding is just one part of a mini stage process to hopefully get to prove a concept, that's not of interest. So narrowly focused on, can our check size be meaningful and helping to get to that next step. And then at the Series A level, we're certainly looking for revenue growth and to be able to achieve a certain milestone, whether that be profitability or a good exit off ramp. We look at a lot of companies, and so we've already looked at 110 or 115 companies in the last 2.5 months. So certainly on pace to do this. And not every company is, again, in Oklahoma, but and actually, we get inbounds of companies from all over the country. But one of our criteria is, do we ask ourselves, again, why Oklahoma? Why should this company grow here, move here, have a presence here? Is there an advantage? Is there an aspect that this company is addressing that is maybe unique to pinch points that you find in an industry in the Midwest? And then we kind of go through the different steps here as far as the initial pitch with the management team, screening, and that's where we involve our subject matter expert advisors. So these are people that are C-level operators who are part of the fund and are really able to answer the question, is this a good company? And then it's up to us to answer, is it a good investment? Does it fit our criteria? Of course, the last step is where we start spending money on lawyers and accountants. How we look at allocation, expect to allocate about 2/3 to Oklahoma startups and 1/3 to other, kind of fitting in those different categories that I mentioned, whether it might be strategic for Oklahoma, there might be a presence or an opportunity for the company to expand here. And we want to be in a position through our syndication ability, we want to be in a position to help bring more capital and more companies here. And I'm kind of preaching to the choir here, but I like to always point out that there have been a lot of startups that have had tremendous success, and various tech companies over the years that have grown larger and quicker than some of the best known names around. So this is not a fringe idea, and this is something that we don't want to miss out on the next one, right? We've already had several. Oklahoma has already seen several successes, and we don't want to miss the next one. And so, we're here to really to be a part of that next generation of technology companies that grow here and stay here. Well, and actually, especially stay here. Right? we want to help build that ecosystem so that way as companies do get to a Series B and C and later, that we hope to develop that pipeline to keep them here. This is often surprising for some of the people that we meet with, just looking at venture capital relative to the S&P, just a well-known metric. And so on average, how venture capital performs relative to the S&P, it's outperforms in most of the last 30 years for every vintage. Certainly it's choppier, so that's why it's an investment class and kind of fits properly in that barbell strategy that I mentioned earlier. And specifically, early stage VC outperforms other stages. And then lastly, venture capital as structured as we are, so institutional, blind pool venture capital is the top performing among the different ways of kind of playing in the early stage investing space. So again, this is just all part of our thesis as far as why are we structured the way we are, why do we focus on early stage, and why locally. And then just for, I mentioned earlier, angel lists. This is showing just how investors can at any time log in, see how their money is doing, request a K1, request financials. It just provides that transparency and that third party control and compliance with everything that we're doing, and just constant communication with our investors. Because we believe, and I think this is important, we believe that part of our role, first and foremost, make money by leveraging our edge, our regional edge, and our edge as far as our background. But number two, by doing that, we're actually able to educate by doing, right? Educate and the investor community. We want to make a bunch of, we want to create a bunch of venture capital experts in Oklahoma. So we currently have about 30 investors. We'll probably end up with 40 or so. So wouldn't that be great to have 40 people around the metro and around the state that can all say they're LPs in a venture capital fund. And then, hopefully that have a bit of a network effect, and kind of, again, educate by doing. So that's actually it for my presentation. I always like to solicit feedback. I think one of the reasons that I think people like myself can have any amount of success in Oklahoma is just the culture in Oklahoma of we help each other. We have kind of that team approach, and so kind of everybody pulling in the same direction. And certainly there's a lot of people on this call that in the early days, I called on to get advice, and continue to do so because we're never done learning and never done growing. But so thank you all for the attention, and Dan, I guess if they take any questions that have come in.
Yeah, just a reminder, if you have any questions, you can shoot them over chat, and I'll bring them up. Nathaniel, I don't know if we could have had a better speaker for our membership drive. That's part of the essence of Oklahoma Venture Forum, so that's wonderful. And one of the questions that I have for you is, what do you think happened to take it from a 12-month fundraising to a 2-month fundraising, and then on to potentially 15 million, but it's going to be 13 and a half. What do you think that is? What do you think is going on?
We have just a lot of dirt on people, so just a lot of threats and extortion. It's not true. It's being recorded. I forget, on Zoom, in a normal meeting, you can hear if people laugh at your joke, but on Zoom, everybody's on mute. So it's kind of I don't know if it's a dud, but if I see people's shoulders shaking, I at least know somebody's laughing. No, I think
clappy icon.
Yeah, that's right. So I think it is. I think it's 3 or 4 things, depending on how you count it. So, and I'll kind of start in order. So again, the macro environment of there's a lot of investors saying that are feeling burnt by public markets, or they're at least feeling that I don't want to be timing the public market, or at the very least recognizing that maybe allocating some funds outside of that is a good idea. But then also that dynamic of people saying that, well, there's this intuition almost from a lot of people that in times like this, you have disruption. I mean, disruption is being forced upon us. And so savvy entrepreneurs are inventing new tools to push through it. And then a lot of the kind of sacred cows that we held on to as far as how things should be done are just not an option anymore. So you have to innovate. And so there's this kind of agitation that we've, and this recognition from people that we meet with, that is a dynamic. And there's this, so that there's a lot of the investors that we talk to, they want to put money in venture capital broadly. They want to invest in startups, but that's about all they know. It's about all they think of. And it's one thing to say like, well, I mean, I guess I could pull out the yellow pages and look up like, West Coast VC funds, or I can invest with somebody that I know. And so I think, the three of us, having spent most of our lives in Oklahoma and built our companies here, Oklahomans are very relational, very trust oriented. And so the fact that, we can be familiar faces and say, hey, we're not here to guarantee that we're going to make everybody, wildly rich, but nobody's going to try harder. And few people can kind of bring together that skill set of having built successful companies. And so, but I'll also want to give credit to everything that's been happening over the years, where this desire to have venture capital in the state, more venture capital in the state, and then and people recognizing that there's been different pieces that have been coming together, and then so it's almost kind of like the it's just kind of built up a level of anticipation, and then I think frankly COVID kind of pushed it over the edge, and then we just happened to be situated at a right time, right place with the right skill set, because part of what we're doing is we're not just doing passing the hat and just collecting money and handing it out. We're building a business ourselves. We're building a vision, and we're building an enduring institution, and that in and of itself is difficult. But again, the three of us have done that in our own ways, and so that skill set of knowing how to take something from 0 to 1, I feel like maybe humans always give themselves credit for the good things and blame somebody else for the bad things. So I know that's a disposition, but if there is something to that, then I think that it would be that recognition about that skill set.
Yeah, okay. So I loved the slide that you showed where you have a significant portion going to Oklahoma. Good slide, the pie chart. We've had some investors come and talk, and a lot of it goes outside of the state, so happy to see that you're putting a lot of that money into Oklahoma companies. Henry's got a couple of good questions. So, what have you encountered trying to find companies that fit your filters? This is probably stemming from Mr. Woods. But how do you manage your filters? How do you qualify those companies? And then he has a follow-on to that. From a network like OVF, what can we do to help?
Yeah, so we do have a multi-pronged approach as far as creating deal flow, and so far it's actually all been inbound, but I think that's just kind of natural. I mean, you put yourself on the front page of the Journal Record, and you kind of put your flag out there and say, I'm here to hand out money. Then a lot of people take you up on that offer, and so we've been very fortunate to get a lot of inbounds, but we also have a very well developed strategy that we're already implementing on I guess I won't call it outbound, but essentially kind of outbound deal flow origination. So finding the deal flow that doesn't just kind of land in your inbox. But you're right, it's absolutely there's a process of filtering that we have to go through, and we are actually still formalizing that. But even though it's not necessarily put into a flow chart yet, I can broadly describe that first call, you find out a lot. And so we have kind of a green light, yellow light, red light. So if it's in Oklahoma, then great. But if it's not in Oklahoma, but it has a really solid tie, either because of the founding team or how their market's growing or the kind of vertical that they're in, then that's kind of the second step. And then it absolutely needs to be it needs to be what we would just, again, call it disruptive technology. And so a quick rule of thumb, if you all read, Peter Thiel's 0 to 1, certainly take a lot of inspiration from that, is it needs to be a 10x improvement on what else is out there. Really not looking at incremental improvements, really looking at things that are 10 times better than anything else, whether it's 10 times cheaper, stronger, faster, whatever it is. And you can usually kind of pick up like pretty quick on what that is. And then certainly, then we try to find out pretty quick how hard is it to replicate that. If it's not patented or patentable, then what else is there to kind of give this company a head start? Those are some pretty quick things that you can find out in the first several minutes of a conversation, or at least kind of know if it's, again, kind of green light, yellow light, red light. What I mean is you really know a green light when you see it because it just checks all the boxes. Again, where the company is the technology disruptive? Is this team credible? Again, it may take some digging to know if they like really have what it takes, but you at least know pretty quick, do they have the right team members in the right places? And then you can also kind of identify a lot of them that are kind of a red light, where it's just, hey, this is not a fit for us, hard pass. But we always try to say, if we do say no, we try to say why, and we try to help them out. Part of it's because we just are just nice people, but it's also because we're selfish capitalists. Because if there's like one thing preventing us from investing in that company, and if we can help them solve for that, that means we've just made up our own deal flow that nobody else has. So like, of course we're going to do that, and that's actually happened in one case. And so we're going to help somebody with a referral or somebody else that might be a fit, or if there's a step in their kind of plan that they're missing, if we can help them solve for that, we'll do that. So the last comment I'll make is, I've made reference to the yellow lights. I described the green light and the red light. The yellow light is basically, well, we kind of give them a homework assignment to say, I need to understand your IP a little bit better. Is it really yours, or does it really protect what you think it protects? Or I need to meet more of your team. So there's oftentimes kind of that homework assignment, and we'll either get a follow-up or we won't, and then we'll kind of know what to do from there. But that first call, 10 minutes is a lot of times all it really takes to go through some of those kind of first 3 or 4 criteria. So you whittle it down, and then the rest is, again, to describe the process earlier. But that's how we look at deal flow. Oh, and the last thing was, how can OVF help? And I think what you do as far as bringing together everybody that's a stakeholder in the system is critical. And so we've already found a lot of value in meeting other investors, whether institutional or not, meeting other people that maybe working on the development side, or have incubators, accelerators. And so having us meet each other in this kind of format, or in any kind of format, I think is absolutely valuable. And to the extent that we're proud of our role in the state and the economy, to the extent that OVF is able to say, like, hey, Oklahoma is absolutely a player in the startup space, in the startup community in the region. And here's just another example of and frankly, the quickness in our fundraise, I think, should give entrepreneurs encouragement that there is dry powder that is ready to go. And it just maybe took the right kind of nudge, and the nudge is here. And so let's go and brag to all the entrepreneurs in the country, for that matter, that Oklahoma is aggressive, and we're here to help steward that.
Awesome. All right. Thank you very much for that presentation. Appreciate it. I really think that's in line with the essence of what we've got going on here. So I think it's very timely. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
The next up, we're going to do our second networking breakout. So prepare yourselves. Here it comes.
Daniel, did you get left out? Or did you opt out?
All right. As we're coming back, go ahead and take a few moments to fill out that poll for Shay so we can continue to refine and improve our experience for you. I like the fact that it shows the results fairly immediately. That's pretty cool. Kyle, I love that studio, man. That's awesome.
I've been working hard on making it look really great on camera. Now the sun is coming through the windows and smashing me in the face. So
yeah. I'm just contending with dogs. I hope that's not coming through.
luckily for me though, tap room next door. So.
Oh yeah. All right. Get some results. Good information. Thank you for sharing that information with us. All right, moving along. So, two things that I would like to bring up. One is the membership drive. So, we're able to do really good things in Oklahoma because you all are members, or you're going to be members, or you can find somebody that you think would be a good member. So if you know somebody that would enjoy the content, would like to be a member, please get them involved somehow, or get them in touch with one of us board members or with Shay, and that way we can get them involved because the membership goes a long way. We put our nonprofit efforts towards good things in Oklahoma, for the economy, and the second item is, hey, what are we going to do this year? That is pretty cool and pretty unique, and it's based off of the circumstance. We're kind of having to push ourselves in a direction that we've wanted to go for a long time. We just didn't know how to get there. And so because of recent events, because we're sitting here in a Zoom meeting, it's really pushed us to become statewide. And that's exciting because we generate a lot of content. If you go to a luncheon, you're going to see a pitch presenter. You're going to see somebody who's got an exit story, somebody, a more mature talk. So that's cool. That's great. Well, we're recording that information, so you can go look at it later. Those are ways that we're serving up that content. And so logistically, it's always been a pain to have somebody on our board from Tulsa, from Lawton, from Enid. Well, now that's not the case anymore. And so what that means is we're going to get more content to be able to share with you all as members. We're going to get access to more things that are going on in the state. And then your reach as a member is going to be larger. You're going to get access. You might find yourself in a breakout session, or might find yourself able to connect with somebody that you've wanted to connect with. Just logistically, it's been prohibited. So OVF, as a nonprofit, trying to be the ecosystem for entrepreneurship, funding, education, recognition of who's having economic impact in the state. That only further supports our goals as an organization, what we're trying to do. And so the things that we have to offer this year, I think, are unique to this year, but they're not going to go away. Moving forward, we've had a lot of participation, a lot of buzz. I know people don't necessarily enjoy a lot of Zoom meetings, but it's really been beneficial from an OVF standpoint to connect the state. So I think this year is a great year to be involved and to get other people involved in OVF. So we had skipped over a couple of slides, but there are some benefits to becoming a member. And Shay, if you want to cue up the slides that are involved with becoming or being a member. So right here is what's new. You've got some of the things I just talked about, but we also have a couple new memberships. We've added an incubator and a founder level membership. They just have kind of different priorities and they have different needs. And so we've identified that could be its own membership. The same old, if you're somewhat new to OVF, what is still around, we've still have our monthly deals. They're going to be on Zoom. As things open up, it'll go back to in person, obviously. You still have access to the directory, you still have your profile, and we still have our newsletter and blogs, podcasts, industry specific networking, and one of my favorites really is the annual awards event. That one has been every other year for some of the awards, but we're consolidating that this year. So that'll be interesting to see how that plays out. And then one thing that I don't know if people take a lot of advantage from, but there's some good stuff in it, is the members discounts. So some of our members offer discounts exclusive to OVF, and there's a slide that kind of shows what is available. But if you're a member and you want to provide a discount to OVF, it's kind of a good little marketplace. You get a very targeted audience that is looking for some of the things. Like I said, kind of when I opened up, I use the resolution group and legal, met them through OVF. Steve Davis, we use Insperity. We use a lot of the service providers in the group, and that's because you trust that they're aligned with what you're trying to do, especially if it has to do with advancing Oklahoma. So with all of that said, we've got a big need in Oklahoma to diversify the economy, to try to figure out all of the challenges that Oklahoma faces. We're gonna try to influence that from our side as a nonprofit and through our members and through our members network. As that last slide suggests, we will have a door prize coming shortly, but which is interesting. The way that plays out in the physical world is always a hoot. It's always a scavenger hunt. So this is going to be interesting to see how it goes. But anyways, we're gonna end with our final networking session, and all of our luncheons are going to have these 3 networking sessions. So if you liked it, didn't like it, we're polling you because we're doing it for the first time. So if we try to squeeze these into a luncheon, we definitely want your feedback. We want to know, is it beneficial? Give us your feedback because we want to make it beneficial. We want to make it worthwhile. And but we'll go to our final breakout session here, and when we get back, we'll announce who the door prize winner is, and then we'll leave it open for a little bit longer, so that way if you've written down a name or got the contact information from somebody that you want to network with, you can do that. So we'll go ahead and go to our final networking breakout session, then we'll give away a prize, and we'll conclude our membership drive.
it was taking people a minute to get back. I was like, huh, they must be having fun. That's a good thing. Do what, Danny?
Everybody's taking advantage of that countdown now. They've learned how to play with it.
That's awesome.
All right, our third and final poll. All right, while we're waiting for the poll to finish tabulating, our door, oh, there's the poll results. Yeah. So the door prize winner for this session, sponsored by Standards IT. Matt Stafford. Coincidence? I was just networking with you. I don't know.
Well, thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah, Shay will get your details, and I think it's a pretty significant prize. Maybe some food, probably from some of the local establishments. Oh, there you go.
Can't go wrong with food, that's for sure.
Yeah. Just need to be able to DoorDash it, right?
Yeah. Definitely can't go wrong with the good egg group.
Right?
Right?
Yeah. Thank you all. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
So we're going to leave it open for about 5-10 minutes, but I'd like to highlight next the power luncheon. That's going to be on the 9th of September, and we're going to have David Jankowski, Francis Renewable Energy. We'll be talking about their new EV fast charging stations in Oklahoma, and our pitch presenter is going to be Jared Bowes with High Q Technologies, and he's going to tell us about wastewater recycling technology. So that's kind of the big deal. So membership drive, go ahead, find some folks to bring to that event. Guests are awesome. And if you have any questions, please seek out Shay, go to ovf.org and get them involved.
And if you all know anybody who's interested in being a speaker or a pitch presenter, there are applications for that on the website under the resources tab. It's other resources. There's it's actually an online form they can just fill out right there and shoot go, and it'll come straight to me. So
yeah, we usually have plenty, but we also like to theme it out so that way it kind of